Imagine moving into what you thought was just another house on another street in Kinston, North Carolina. But from the moment you stepped inside, something felt off. Unexplainable noises, objects moving on their own. Each night, the unsettling feeling grew stronger. Tonight, we'll take you inside this chilling tale where reality blurs with the unknown. Is it all in your mind, or is there something more sinister lurking in the shadows?
I've lived in Kinston, North Carolina all my life. It's a small town. It's one of those places where everybody knows everybody else. But there's something about Kinston. Well, something about it that most people don't talk about anyway. It's something that's been whispered about in hushed tones, if it's even talked about at all. And well, it was something I never believed in until it happened to me. It all started last fall when I moved into an old house on Vernon Avenue. It was a quaint two-story place with a wraparound porch. Quite honestly, it was within my budget. Not the most ideal place to be, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. I felt like I kind of stole the house anyway, but that's another story. It's the kind of house that looked like it'd been plucked straight out of a Southern Gothic novel or something. The previous owner, they had passed away, and the place had been on the market for a long time. So, like I said, I felt like I stole the house. But from the moment I stepped inside, the air, it felt different. It was thicker somehow. At first, I thought it was just the mustiness of an old house, but then things started happening. It began with the small things, a door creak or a door opening when I knew I'd closed it. Lights would flicker for no apparent reason. You could just chalk it up to it's an old house and it's settling, or maybe there's a faulty wiring. But then I started hearing whispers late at night, just as I would drift off to sleep. They were faint, almost imperceivable, but unmistakably there. One night I woke up to the sound of footsteps down the hallway outside my bedroom. I mean, I live alone, so I grab my baseball bat that I always keep by my bed and I tiptoe to the door. The hallway was empty, but the floorboards were still creaking as if somebody was walking down them. I checked every room, but there was no one there. Like a dumbass, I even went outside. But the streets, well, they were pretty much empty. The only sound was the rustling of the wind in the trees. I tried to brush it all off, convincing myself it was all in my head. But then one night I had a dream, or at least I think it was a dream. In it, I was standing in my kitchen, staring out the window to the backyard. It was a full moon, and everything was bathed in an eerie pale light. Suddenly, I saw a figure standing by an old oak tree just at the edge of the yard. It was a woman, her face obscured by the shadows, but I could feel her eyes on me. She lifted her hand and pointed at the house, and I woke up with a startle, just drenched in sweat, scared out of my mind, really. The next morning, I went out in the yard, half expecting to find nothing, but there, under that old oak tree, I found a small weathered locket, half buried in the dirt. I'd never seen it before, and it certainly hadn't been there the day before. I picked it up, and when I opened it, Inside was an old, faded photograph of a woman that looked eerily familiar. It was the woman from the night before. I'm not one to believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but I can't explain what happened in that house. Was it just my imagination, or was there something or someone trying to reach out to me from beyond the grave? All I know is I moved out not long after that, and I've never looked back. But sometimes late at night, I can still hear those whispers in my dreams. Can't help but wonder. I mean, really, I just can't help but wonder. Could it have all been real?
Thank you, dear anonymous listener, for your story. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this chilling journey through Kinston, North Carolina, a town with roots deep enough to hide its fair share of eerie tales. Founded in 1762, Kinston has seen centuries of history, and with that history comes the lingering echoes of the past. Whether you believe in the paranormal or think it's just a trick of the mind, there is no denying the spine tingling feeling that something might be watching from the shadows. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that could be real.
Snow Hill, North Carolina. Founded in 1811, it's a small town with a deep history. Nestled in Greene County, it's known for serene landscapes and quiet life. But whispers of the paranormal have long been part of its story. Some say the land holds memories too stubborn to fade, and that certain places in town carry more than just echoes of the past. One such place was a small apartment our next listener story lived in back in 1991. What she experienced there made her a firm believer in all things unseen.
It all started with small, almost unnoticeable things. At first, I would misplace my keys or a book, only to find them later in the exact spot I had already checked. But soon it escalated. Lights would flicker on and off at random, and I could hear faint, distant sounds as if someone was whispering just out of earshot. One night, I was laying in bed, trying to fall asleep, when the lights in my bedroom suddenly switched on. I sat up, heart pounding, and watched as the switch on the wall clicked off, then on again. Objects started disappearing more frequently. My hairbrush, a picture frame, only to reappear in strange places like the kitchen or bathroom. The final straw came when I found my dining room chairs stacked on top of each other, balanced precariously in the middle of the room. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was in that apartment with me, something that didn't want me there. I packed up and moved out within a week. As soon as I left, eerie disturbances stopped. I never looked back, but I can't shake the feeling that whatever was in that apartment is still there, waiting.
Thank you, listener, for your story. Whether you believe in the paranormal or think it's all just a series of coincidences, Snow Hill, North Carolina is a town where history lingers, sometimes in the most unsettling of ways. So if you ever find yourself there in Snow Hill, take a moment to listen. You never know what or who maybe trying to get your attention.
You tune into tales of the paranormal, of shadows that creep through the night, and unexplained occurrences that leave you questioning reality. But what if the haunting isn't supernatural at all? Tonight, we take you to South Carolina about 10 years ago, where what seemed like a classic ghost story took a chilling turn into something much more real and far more terrifying for listeners and for us.
It all started innocently enough. I was working the night shift, trying to catch up on sleep during the day. Strange things kept happening. I'd find milk or orange juice left out on the counter, which I knew I hadn't done. Then, shirts started disappearing. Loose change would vanish from where I'd left it. I even thought I heard someone moving around the house while I was asleep, but I just chalked it up to vivid dreams. After a month of this, I decided to set up cameras around the house. For a few days, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but then, one night, I decided to check the feed on my phone. At first, everything was quiet, but then I noticed something. Just the faintest movement near one of the smaller cameras. My heart raced as I saw a shadowy figure moving quietly through the kitchen. It wasn't a ghost, but a man. He slipped out of the crawl space and into my home. He moved like he'd done this many times before, helping himself to my food, my clothes, whatever else he wanted while I was oblivious. Just a few nights before, a few rooms away. Panicked, I called the police. My hands trembled as I described what I was seeing. They arrived quickly. After a tense search, they found him hiding in the crawl space, the very place he'd been living for who knows how long.
Not every horror story has a ghost. Sometimes the real terror comes from something much more tangible. This story from South Carolina is a stark reminder that not all hauntings are supernatural. Sometimes they're the result of very real, very dangerous intruders. Be sure to check every nook and cranny before dismissing the unexplained.
The following is a strange and chilling story shared by one of our listeners who wishes to remain anonymous. They had an eerie experience during a ghost walk, and that still haunts them to this day.
We decided to do something spooky for Halloween and went on a ghost walk in historic New Bern, North Carolina. My friends and I from Greenville were having a blast, laughing and enjoying the scary stories the tour guide shared. But as we wandered through the old streets, I started feeling cold and disoriented. I fell behind the group unnoticed and sat down on a brick railing to catch my breath. Suddenly, I heard a man's voice say, "Are you ill, my lady?" His voice seemed to echo through my mind. I looked up to see a man dressed in 18th century attire, complete with a cape. At first, I thought he was just part of the Halloween atmosphere. He reached out his hand, and I felt an overwhelming urge to take it. When I did, everything around me began to spin. We weren't on the street anymore. I was inside a grand 18th century mansion, wearing a gown, and this man was holding me as we danced to a waltz. The rest of the room was frozen in time, like a painting. Then he stopped and looked into my eyes and said, "You must go now, my lady. I will forevermore wait for you." The next moment, I was back with my friends who were asking if I was okay. Though I felt shaken, the encounter left me with a profound sadness and longing that I can't explain.
Thank you for watching, dear viewer. Do you have a story to share? We'd love to hear your story. Whether it's paranormal, a true crime tale, a stalker encounter, maybe a creepy experience, a cryptid sighting, or a let's not meet moment. Please share your one story per call. You've got up to 5 minutes, so if you need more time, feel free to just call back. Your story may be shared with our listeners, and if you prefer, you can remain completely anonymous. But we can't wait to listen. The link is below